Tuesday.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was a...
But I have the files. You know, I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? You know, Kindles and final slab of choice. I don't know that internet, professional records, and not just in tourist style. It doesn't matter where the information comes from as long as it's real. It's hard to get real information because seriously, nations just reuse two sources whenever I try to prove out. You know, it's not. If you expect your government to tell you the truth, you're going to sadly disappoint another one of these things.
Dear Lord, what a dirty old man, huh?
Really? Can't be serious. Is this really how you want things to be? Come on. More hooker, eruptions? Eruptions, whatever.
Like Dave Powers kind of...
Really?
Allegedly broadcast live from Pima Region 2, within the borders of the formerly united and currently occupied states of America. We bring you the Ochelli Effect.
It's like, damn sure, no, I'm an original.
We have all these situations. I'd love to know why it takes 50 years, for
That's that.
a 19-year-old girl to eventually get up the gumption to put these things out.
And it is Tuesday night on UCY.TV. This is the Ochelli Effect. I am Chuck Ochelli. And this evening we will have Roger Landry joining me shortly. And hopefully all things are going well where you are. I got to tell you that the weather here is awfully interesting. Let's just see something here. Yep, okay. Just a second, people. I just have to take care of a little housekeeping here. Yep, there we go. And so the deal is that tonight we're going to again continue our segments on the Liberty Beacon Project, or the Liberty Beacon, I should say, not the Liberty Beacon Project, and the Off the Grid Project, which is commencing in Colorado right now. And I'm hoping to get a little update on that from Mr. Landry. But then in the second hour, we're also going to open up the lines. Everybody is welcome to join in. Of course, you guys know the number is 718-717-8296. And of course, if you have me on your friends list or UCY radio on your friends list, feel free to jump in the second hour, which starts at 7 p.m. Eastern here. But again, we are live tonight. And with any luck, I'll be joined shortly by Roger Landry. In the second hour, we're going to discuss this whole thing which is in the news right now about the LA Clippers owner being banned from basketball for life and all that, and the connotations of that mess and nonsense. But I think I have Mr. Roger Landry on the line. Are you there, Roger?
Yes, I am. How are you, Chuck?
I'm all right, Roger. You sound a little down from where I usually hear you. You okay?
Oh, no, I'm doing fine. Just busier than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest, but still managing to stand up.
Oh, absolutely. You always are. And, tonight I wanted to, and I talked to Lucille about this, and she suggested that I talk to you about it. Lucille is your communications director at the Liberty Beacon, right?
She is that, and she is also our executive director.
And executive director. I do forget that. That's her other hat she wears.
Right.
But tonight what I wanted to do is get a little update on, because I've mentioned it several times, this ongoing effort in Colorado, which is a completely off-the-grid community which is being constructed, right?
Yes.
So I wanted to find out from you, I know that this is a little bit sudden to get into this subject, but I'm sure that, as always, you're readily prepared to discuss any of these things. Because, I've talked to Roger a lot off the air, and I got to tell you that no matter what it is I bring up, this man can talk about any subject, it seems, at length, with the, depending on how much time is allotted. So I got to tell you, he's one of the most interesting people I've encountered in recent times, that's for sure. And of course the Liberty Beacon, which we've discussed, and also had the show with Terry Joyce and the previous show with Roger. just simply discussing all sorts of aspects of this. Like I said, today we're going to focus on the efforts in Colorado. So I'm wondering, first of all, how this effort came to be, and what it is that inspired the entire situation to begin.
Well, let me just sidetrack just a little bit to answer something you just described so eloquently. I am not an expert on anything. There are so many experts out there that I have the pleasure of talking to on a daily basis, and I would give credit to each and every one of them. It is the amount of people I talk to and the amount of research I do and the articles I write and the articles I read. I am a GP, a general practitioner. Although not an expert, I know enough about anything to have an intelligent conversation about everything. So that speaks to what you just said. And yes, I lay claim to being an expert at nothing, but it's very, very hard to find a subject that I cannot hold an intelligent conversation on. I really appreciate, Chuck, you bringing up the Colorado issue, because that is something that is very near and dear, not only to my heart, but to a vast majority of people who participate in the Liberty Beacon Project. It is something, and it's not unique, because you see these Earthship communities or these Earthship one-off residences popping up all over the world. And it's a global concept. It's not just like the Liberty Beacon Project is. It's not something that is unique to the United States. Well, this all started about 5 or 6 months ago when a friend of mine, who is one of the original founders of this project, her and a friend of hers, had purchased some land on the Rio Grande, right on the gorge, about 5 miles north of the New Mexico border. And they had hopes to build a very small, either 1 or 2 person or 1 or 2 family community on this land. And it's, at this point, it's 25 acres, but we're looking at doubling that over the next year, to about 50 acres or more. And she had discussed it with me and asked me if I would be willing to participate. Now, we talk the talk all the time in the Liberty Beacon Project. We need to eat healthy. We need to get away from the GMOs and grow healthy food. We need to isolate, or not so much isolate ourselves, but get ourselves off of the grid enough so that these very big corporatist corporations and the government, we can minimize the influence they have on our daily lives. So basically, off the grid living, growing healthy food, all of these things are things that we talk about in the Liberty Beacon Project on a continuous basis. And if you were to go to the Liberty Beacon and look in our health section, you will find a cacophony, a virtual cornucopia, a plethora of articles that either we have written or that we have taken from others or have had contributed to us by great authors on this very subject. So I'm very, very fond of saying it's easy to talk the talk. Can you walk the walk? So we do that in so many aspects. We do. We do fundraising for a lot of other organizations we're partnered with. We join petition signing drives. We do all of these things because we feel that you need to be an active participant. If all you ever hear is information that is constantly beating you down, eventually you're going to lose interest. I don't care how much of a patriot you are. You can only take so much negative news before it really starts to shut your brain down. So we want to offer positive feedback. There is no better way to do that than to be an example. So I told both of these ladies, and they both have degrees in natural sciences, and I told both of them, I would like to involve the Liberty Beacon Project very, very much and very deeply into your project, but we need to make sure that all of the hurdles are cleared, that the title to the land is solid, that the permits required are in place, that all of the legal hoops are taken care of. Well, about a month ago, she gave me a call and she said, Roger, everything is set. So here I went. We are launching a website this coming Monday on the 4th called Earthship Solutions. It's another Liberty Beacon website, of which we have many. And we will be putting detailed information about this project on that website. We'll be putting pictures of other communities that have been built so that we can show what we're intending to do. And we are going to take this down to a gnat's butt. And what I mean by that is we have a lot of interested people in Australia, in South Africa, in the UK, in Canada, that are all part of the Liberty Beacon Project. And they, as a matter of fact, we have websites in each and every one of these countries and more.
Right. And as you've stated often, it is always worthy of note that the patent on freedom is not necessarily an American patent. It is a human patent. It is something that belongs in the worldwide, psychology. It's something that needs to be reinforced everywhere, because after all, humanity is a singular species, and we do need to come together in a lot of ways and separate ourselves from these obviously destructive forces that have sort of grown up through the corporatist mechanisms in all parts of the world, not just here but everywhere. And there are so many questions that come up regarding projects like this. And I have been asked many times, well, listen, if you're going to go off the grid, then what are you going to do with this? And honestly, I don't have the answers to these questions. So at the very least, this website is going to be down to the last detail, showing people exactly how this works and as it's being constructed, right?
We're going to have daily updates, both in pictures and videos and short articles on a daily basis. It will be updated. And you're so right. I mean, I constantly get asked, well, what are you going to do for electricity? Well, we're going to use solar and wind power. Well, what are you going to use for water? Well, one of the boundaries on the land is 30 feet into the Rio Grande River. So water it's abundant. And, being that close to the river, drilling down into the ground to find the water table is not going to require a whole lot of effort. So the only technological connection we will maintain, not the electricity, not the water, not anything, but we will maintain an internet connection, and that will be via Wi-Fi, 3G or 4G connection, which will be wireless. But other than that, everything, including the food, the water, the crops, and I don't believe I mentioned this, but the Liberty Beacon just purchased a license from the state of Colorado to grow 10 acres of hemp, and our partners in this project, Cindy and Paige, already have another license to grow 10 acres of hemp. So we will be growing 20 acres of industrial hemp on this property starting in June when the crop goes in. So we will have a cash crop to help build the project.
So in other words, the project in and of itself is going to be self-supporting after a bit, utilizing all of the legal means that are available, and also the natural resources of the area. In other words, you're really going to actually have this community spring up and be viable, not only in a earth science sort of way, but in an economic fashion. It'll be able to be separate and viable. And meanwhile, you'll only maintain really the sort of outside link for internet, so that you can disseminate this stuff worldwide. I mean, is that about sum it up?
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, we are taking on this project under the auspice that it is going to be a living school, a teaching experience. As a matter of fact, this is how we're basically registered with the state of Colorado. We will bring people in. They will participate in the growing and the harvesting of the hemp. They will participate in the building of the structures. They will participate in putting in the irrigation, the water systems, that type of system. They will learn how to put in a garden, to support the community. All of these things will be put up as basically classes. We do have people who can teach these classes. These are people who are, as again I've said, have basically degrees in earth sciences or things along that line. So we are very qualified, or we have very qualified people to do this. It is being set up as a teaching experience. The Liberty Beacon Project has one mission. No matter what we rail against, whether it's GMOs, chemtrails, vaccines, political tyranny, perpetual warfare, it's all about educating as many people across this planet as we can, because as you stated, the United States has no patent on either liberty or tyranny. So, this is a teaching, project, and the, Earthship Solutions project in Colorado will be no different. And as you complete, once we get the crop grown, the hemp crop, and harvested, you will get a certificate of completion. Once the garden comes in and we bring our food from the gardens and we can it for the winter, you will get a certificate of completion. Once we build the structures which will maintain the community, you will get a certificate of completion. Now, we're not expecting to be able, because we're going the second week of June, which gives us 4.5 months before the weather turns. And so we're not expecting to really have the community up and running as a whole in the first season. But come early spring next year, through the end of that growing season, we will have a viable community at the end of the second year with full-time year-round living, with all of the utilities we need, all of the food we need, and the cash crop we need to support and build and grow the community. And all of this is going to be documented in pictures, videos, and daily articles. And it will all be on that website. And as a matter of fact, we're going to start doing a huge push on the Earthship Solutions website via radio shows and articles to all of our websites globally, starting the beginning of next week.
Well, I sure hope that you decide to stop in with me and give me these updates as well.
Sure, Chuck, no problem. Anything
I can do to promote this as much as I can, I want to participate as well. I have a few considerations myself, and I'm just going to throw them at you and see what you have to say about them. I mean, when you have people that have smaller children and things like that, I mean, I'm sure that you intend to set the community so that like even families could come in eventually. I mean, this is part of the long-term goal, right?
You're probably talking year 3 for that. Year 1, the first season, like I said, is going to be a short season. So it's basically going to be getting the first cash crop in, the first garden in, setting up the water drip system for the crop fields, setting up viable potable water for the community, and doing the initial building on several structures that will support at least 1 or 2 people over the course of the winter. We can't totally abandon it at the end of the first season, because you'll basically have people coming in and trashing it and wrecking it and vandalizing it over the course of the winter. So there will be a presence in the community on the first year. The second year, we'll expand the community, we'll expand the living, the habitats, we'll expand the utilities that we're going to be required to support the community. And by the third year, we will have a viable, full-time, permanent community. But there's something unique about this that I'd like to discuss with you.
Okay.
You just said, is there anything I can do to help? And yes, there is. And I don't apologize for springing on you like this, because it's something very unique. We're asking for donations, but we don't want money from anybody. Now, there will be a donate button on the Earthship Solutions website, and people are free, if they wish, to donate money to the project. But we're never going to ask anybody for a penny. We're trying a very unique mechanism here. Every day you go on the internet, there are people asking for money. Donate money for this, donate money to keep my website up, donate money for this project, donate money for, and who do you favor? And there are so many scams out there. How are you sure that hard-earned, and today we know how hard it is to have extra money.
Absolutely.
That extra $25 or $50 that you send to a project, how do you know that ever even gets spent on that project? You don't. And there are scams out the yang out there today. So we have decided we're going to take a totally different tack. We're not going to ask anybody for a penny. Matter of fact, we'll never see a penny of these donations. What we are doing is we are going into the local townships around our land, and we are getting a list of the local hardware stores, the local lumber yards, the local grocery stores, the hotels, motels for people who wish to participate in the learning process but don't necessarily want to sleep on the ground in a tent every night. We're getting a list of all of the local vendors, and this will be on the website. If you wish to donate to the project, say, we need help, because we're going to provide a list of all the materials we're going to need. So you go to the website, you look at what we need. We need lumber, we need hand tools, we need garden tools, we need drip hose, and then there will be a list of vendors that supply these things. Now, you will call that vendor up, and you will say, I wish to make a donation for the Liberty Beacon, Colorado project. All right? Mm-hmm. At that point, you will give that vendor a credit card number and an amount. So the best we can do is call these vendors once a day, ask them what the balance is. We know what we need. Go into, say, it's a hardware store, buy a couple of hammers, a couple of saws, a couple of garden rakes, some seed, whatever we need for growing food crops. And when we leave, what we leave is we leave with the exact items we need to facilitate the project, not a penny cash. So you are absolutely assured, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that whatever you donate to this project has to go in to this project's facilitation. It cannot be spent on any other mechanism. It cannot be squandered. You cannot be ripped off. And this way, we're assuring people that their contribution is going to go to exactly what they wish it to. Then what we will have is an honors page. Everybody who donates to any one of these vendors, their name will appear on the honors page as contributors to this Earthship Solutions project. So they will all be a physical part of the completion of this project. We wish to avoid any signs of impropriety. We wish to avoid any chances of you being ripped off or you being lied to. We want to put it in your hands to help facilitate this project because it's not cheap to do this. It's going to cost money. But we don't want your money. We want your contributions in what you feel. If you want to donate foodstuffs until our first crop comes in, call the local grocery store and say, Liberty Beacon Project Colorado, here's $150 towards groceries. Again, anything on that list that we will provide that you wish to donate, that's what you're going to donate. We will never see a penny of it. What do you think about that, Chuck?
Well, that's awfully fascinating because at the very least we know that that there is a way that it can be accounted for. Every dollar can be accounted for, and and this way there's no spending. What you're really doing is kind of loading the credit at the local vendors to be used at the project directly, so that you know it's going directly to that cause. So.
Absolutely. And we've already got some local vendors that are absolutely thrilled about this and eager to be a part of it. Matter of fact, we might end up by getting a discount on a lot of what we purchase because of the nature of the project itself.
It is really, really fascinating. I mean, like I said, you know, with my own personal sort of considerations, I was, you know, thinking to myself that eventually I'd like to get to one of these types of communities because I've heard about them before. But honestly, you know, I know that this one is different because there is a much better, thought out sort of beginning to it. And I also know that, we're not going to have any of these problems with legal considerations because everything has been purchased, within the confines of the law. and there shouldn't be any sort of problems with the local governments, let's just say, getting involved or having difficulty with what you're doing, because essentially you're taking a piece of land and repurposing it under the auspices of creating a learning institution, which is licensed also, and it just seems to me to be a really well thought out project, and I'm really happy to hear about it. And I'm glad also to share it with my listeners tonight, because this I think is something that as we learn about it and watch it grow, I think is going to provide us all with a little more hope and a little more of an interesting sort of way to begin to do things on your own, even with cooperative efforts. I mean, there are some people that are out there on their own trying to get off the grid and create, situations for themselves so that they don't have to be reliant on the larger corporations or companies. And that's all fine and dandy, but I think even better is when we can come up with cooperative efforts where people with expertise in some of the very basic needs in life are utilized to create a community, actually, as opposed to just a standalone singular house,
Well, it goes beyond that. It does. And again, you touched on this, and you bring up some great points, Chuck. You really do. But there might be people out there who don't necessarily want to go live in an eco community. There might be people out there, but they're interested in, say, solar power or wind power, or they're interested in how we grow our crops, or hemp in itself, or they're interested in how to build an eco structure, an ecologically, sound structure. So you don't need to participate in the entire project. If we are doing something within that project that has your interest, then again, this might be what you would wish to donate to. This might be something you would wish to come down and participate in. This might be something that you have expertise on, that you wish to donate your expertise to the project. So it's not a matter of you have to take the whole thing or take nothing. It's a matter of we are going to be doing so many things that we talk about. We talk about solar power. We talk about wind power. We talk about hemp. We talk about self-sustaining communities. We talk about building, making or constructing buildings that are earth-friendly. Each one of these can be taken as an individual component, thus an individual learning process.
Well, yeah, that's the other great thing, because I know from my life experience, I've spent a lot of time more in urbanized environments. And honestly, some of the agricultural aspects of this would be extremely fascinating to me, because I only know very basic things about growing my own food, honestly. And I would, love to learn more about it. And if I just came there to, say, learn about the agricultural aspects of this, that would be extremely instructive to me personally, and could be great for anybody else but just participate in that aspect of it, let's just say. But even the community as a whole, and even, like you said, the building and the construction of irrigation, all of these things, if they're there as sort of a teaching tool, all of these things would be even in pieces. Yeah, you're right. That's interesting too. I didn't even really consider that as a piecemeal sort of, so you could selectively learn about, say, agriculture or irrigation / agriculture, or solar power if you just wanted to be able to learn about solar power so that you could, just sort of begin to utilize, alternative, forms of energy so that you're not so much, under the thumb of the energy companies when it comes to powering your own home or something like that. You could just simply go there and learn about even these individual aspects as well, huh?
And again, if you take this and put it into real life terms, it doesn't matter what school or university you go to. It's not about learning everything in that university. It's about taking courses or majors that you wish, majoring in specific things. Okay, if it's a business school, There's all different kinds of things you can learn in a business, different courses you can take, different majors you can take, different degrees you can end up with. So if we take it under that same, basic setup, it's you can either come out and wish to eventually be a permanent part of that community, in which case the knowledge you would acquire would cover the entire spectrum, or you can come out and basically take part in what is your interest. Okay, do you want to further your knowledge in generating power? Do you want to further your knowledge in, such as you're talking about the agricultural aspect? Well, this is pretty much desert, but it's a green desert type situation. So we can't rely totally on rainfall, especially since we're sandwiched in between two groups of mountains. And a lot of the clouds might not get through to us, okay? Sure, we can draw the water from the Rio Grande, but 5 acres is right on the Rio Grande. 20 acres is about 3 or 4 miles inland from the Rio Grande. So carting buckets of water or tanks of water would be a situation that would be pretty difficult. So we need to put in a well. We need to develop the water systems. How are we going to irrigate the crop? Well, we've already decided we'll dig the furrows. We put the seeds in. We will lay drip hoses in the furrows and then bury the seeds back up so that the drip hoses will irrigate the roots. And you won't even see these hoses, okay? They'll irrigate the roots as the plants grow. So all of these things had to be taken into consideration, but each and every mechanism that's required to build this community as a whole is in itself a separate learning process. What do you want to learn?
Well, that would be, just like course selections in order to create the necessary means to gather sort of a degree in a particular science or area of learning of any kind. I guess it's really endless, the possibilities that you could draw from this, because after all, there's going to have to be a business model, which is going to be in place here, which will be separate and sort of independent when it comes to the hemp. Like we're talking about, the irrigation is a separate sort of science, even though it is interrelated with the agricultural aspects.
And it's all interrelated. It's all interrelated, but that doesn't mean that it can't be taken in its individual aspects. The water system is going to have to supply water to the hemp crop, the food crops and anybody who comes down and helps us grow a garden is also going to learn how to can and preserve this food, because we have people who have done that for 20, 30 years. They're expert at canning and preserving these foods. So the water system is one thing in itself. The solar system is one thing in itself. The wind power is one thing in itself. Building and constructing the shelters, that's one thing in itself. Okay, because they have to be weatherproof, they have to be windproof, they have to be well insulated, they have to be solid built on a solid foundation. So each and every aspect of this project is a project within itself, but they all have to connect harmoniously for us to get a viable community when it's done.
Well, right, and it has to be. I mean, who actually? It was these two ladies that developed the plan to begin with. I mean,
they developed the plan on a much smaller scale because they weren't even aware. Well, Cindy was aware of who I was and what the Liberty Beacon Project was, but not the magnitude or the reach of the Liberty Beacon Project. She came and asked me if I wished to be part of it just because she knew me as an individual, not because of the Liberty Beacon Project. And they had basically set up these ideas for a very small community of maybe 1 or 2 structures. And once I got involved, then it was, it blew way up. It was like, oh my God, we could do this, and now we could do this, and maybe we should do this. So I watched their plans, which are very, very well rooted, very solid.
Well, right. If you have a solid sort of nuclear
then you can
plan,
scale it up.
you can just scale it up as long as it maintains its integrity. You just
Exactly right.
increase the size of it, and it'll still maintain its integrity. So
this has gone from maybe because they each have family members. This has gone from maybe a community of 2 structures and a couple of adults and a few children being built over a year or two to a community being built that's fully self-sustaining, including a cash crop to support. And if you don't think that there isn't going to be abundant sources to sell the hemp to, Colorado's already looking, but they are begging people to take out hemp licenses, to buy hemp licenses, to grow hemp, to support the structures that are being built in there, the people that want to buy that hemp, and whether it's for the seeds, the leaf, the stalks, the fiber, whatever. There's already a very viable market there. As a matter of fact, there'll be people probably standing on our property line, tapping their toes impatiently going, when are you going to harvest that?
Yeah, I saw recently that there was almost a shortage of the stuff in the state because after the legalization, I mean, yeah, we know all about the smoking aspect of it, but there are
it's legal. Pot is legal in Colorado. It's legal to grow pot too. You just need to get a license to grow it.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
But that's what I'm saying is that, there's the use for smoking, and that's one thing, and that's usually what people that don't understand the subject often point to. But there's that, but there's also many, many other uses. I mean, the oils, like you said, the stalks, the stems, the seeds themselves, every single thing from the plant actually can be utilized for all sorts of different purposes, from medicinal to
nutritional to fibers. You can make a concrete-like substance out of hemp fiber that is 10 times stronger than concrete and 1/10 the weight.
Well, right, and then there's the I'm trying to think of the correct word for it.
Our paper used to be made out of hemp. Our flags used to be made out of hemp. Hemp is the most versatile plant you can grow on this planet.
Right, and that's where I was going with it, is the whole sort of I can't remember what it is, but it's like the concept of being able to utilize it for all sorts of manufacturing.
Yep.
The ability to make all sorts of things out of it. And I mean, we've seen the articles of clothing that are obviously
it's versatility.
And there are solid things that can be made out of it. Like you said, there is a substance very similar to concrete almost that can be made out of it. And you can actually make tools out of this stuff. I mean, there's the jewelry, the uses of the oils, like I said, are endless, really. Even for fuel, this can be.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Biofuel. Yes. And you also have to consider one of the biggest aspects of it. Now, the hemp stalks, and these will be anywhere between 15 and 17 feet tall when they're mature. The hemp stalks are a good cash crop. But what's even more valuable in Colorado right now, because in order to grow hemp in Colorado, your seeds have to come from Colorado. Because the states that surround Colorado, it's still illegal. So if you import seeds from out of state, basically what you have is an illegal substance crossing state lines, and you go to prison.
Right, so, that becomes a federal law problem because even though it's legal in the state of Colorado, if you're to bring it over from another state, you've now crossed a state line with the substance which was illegal. So therefore, the thing is, you have to be able to actually get the seeds that you grow the stuff with in Colorado from Colorado. That way, there is no sort of consideration with the federal law.
So what do you think the cash value of those seeds from that initial crop are going to be? Never mind the fibers in the plant stock and the leaves and the oils. The seeds are going to be a very valuable cash crop as well.
Yeah, currently, especially because of the shortage in growth and all that, and the actual literal inability to fill all of the demand for the plant. The seeds that are made in Colorado are definitely going to be extremely valuable because they will be what produces the future crops that are still probably going to be in shortage for the next couple of years, it looks like.
Which is why putting in between 15 and 20 acres of hemp, The cash return, it depends on how dense you plant this crop. But the cash return on this can be as much as $12,000 an acre.
Wow.
Now, let's figure 20 acres. Now, it might be less than that depending on how densely we pack it, okay? It could be as low as $5,000 to $6,000 an acre, but even that, with 20 acres at $6,000 cash return per acre, now that's just selling the plants. That's not selling the seeds. So how do we intend on building this community? We intend on building, when you talk about sustainability, and no, I am not an Agenda 21 fan, and they've made that into a dirty word. It's not. When you talk about continuous sustainability, all right, you also need to talk about supporting yourselves with some sort of an income to allow the community to grow. Well, if you pick the right crop, okay, then what you do is you provide, and a lot of what's going to happen in the initial building of this project is going to be donated. And I've already discussed the mechanism for donation. So basically, a lot of the cash crop that comes in at the end of our first season, about 90% of those funds can be turned right back into expanding the community. So we see a very rapid growth over the first couple of years, just due to the fact that we planned it out well. We know the right crop to grow. We know what the resale for it will be. We know the demand for the seeds. So all of this is going together to put together a community that is not only going to be self-sustaining, but is going to be self-perpetuating.
Which is really the key to sustainability. The fact that you'll be able to roll things over, so to speak, and be able to continuously feed back into it and expand, because that's going to be the real test of this. I think when you
longevity,
the longevity of it, because what'll happen here is if you can say get the donations to get it up and running, and you can get the structures going, and you can get the crop going, that's all fine and dandy. Yep. But then when it comes time again to replant, to reseed and everything else, as opposed to having the donations come back in again, if it can actually take care of itself in a way, then this will be, and I think, as far as I'm concerned, it seems as though you definitely selected the right crop, to be able to sustain the community.
And these aren't Monsanto seeds, Chuck, which means they're not Terminator seeds, which means we can use our own seeds next year without going to jail for it.
That's the thing, is if it's sufficiently done, then you have seeds that were grown in Colorado to be able to be used in Colorado again.
Absolutely.
And you're still within the confines of the law. You're not stirring up anything that would be, illegal, or having, federal authorities need to get involved or anything like that. It's, completely legal and sensible. And I just am amazed at how well thought out this is, and how really hopeful this makes me feel about the possibilities, because look, if you can do this in one place, it can certainly be done in others. And, I'm really anxious. Yeah.
That's the reasoning. And we won't just facilitate this, throughout the United States. As I said, we have, communities, the Liberty Beacon Project, offshoots in at least a half a dozen other countries at this point, and growing. And everybody, you don't think they don't have Earthship type communities popping up in Australia? You know they do. South Africa, you know they do. Canada, you know they do. The United Kingdom, of course they do. So all of this is going to be shared on a global level, because this is something that all of us can benefit from. And when we decide that we need to fix America and to hell with everybody else, let me explain something to you. One country, I don't care whether you fix it perfectly or not, is not going to change the course of history on this planet. We need to attack this in a global fashion, because one country can be isolated and the tyranny can continue on the rest of the globe. So if we do not facilitate a global movement in all that we do, whether it's education about political tyranny, whether it's education about GMOs, chemtrails, perpetual warfare, off-grid living, whatever it is, we need this information to go out in a global fashion. And the Liberty Beacon Project realized this almost from the day I founded it. I realized, and one of the first things that popped into my head is what you referred to. When I sat down to put together a basic framework for this project, one of the first ideas that popped into my head was, America does not have a patent on tyranny or liberty.
Well, yeah, that's just a brilliant summation of the reality. But, here's something that I do wonder, because as you're saying, and it is definitely necessary to understand, that even if you create a utopia in one part of this planet, eventually the other tyrannies will certainly leak back in and destroy it. So, but here's a question I have for you, because this is just one of the things that pops in my head as I'm sitting here. Do you have a way that there's going to be a mechanism to sort of protect this situation, so that people won't, say come and try to sabotage it in some way? I mean, has that been thought of as well?
Yes, and initially anybody who wishes to be a part of the project will send a resume.
No, I understand that. I mean, you're going to be very selective about the people that you involve in the very hard.
Well, that would be the majority of it, because everything else we are doing is being done by legal license and within legal framework of the local and the state communities, and within the realm of federal law. So we are going to violate no laws in any way, shape, or form, and we are going to be very careful on who becomes a permanent resident or who participates. And I've got to tell you something. You come down and say, hey, I've got a month, I want to come down and learn how to do this, and you get down there and the first thing you start doing is causing hate and discontent within the community, it's not going to be too long before you're shown the door. And I've got to tell you something. When you're escorted out the door will slam so hard you'll get windburn on your butt.
Well, I understand that's a necessity, but I mean, I was just curious if you guys had contemplated this, so far as, because, listen, they're
going to have to do drastic changes of the laws as they exist in order to facilitate the destruction of this community. And what they would have to do is they would have to change the lives of a lot of people in the state of Colorado to do that.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. It's just that, just to my mind, though, there's always troublemakers that come in, and
of course, and
I was just wondering if you guys had thought that through as well, because, in some of these other, situations where I've heard of people trying to create, new ways of doing things quite often, there are people that come in, and for whatever reason, the reasons are many, intend to be more destructive than helpful. And I was just curious about that, because this is the kind of thing that I really would like to see succeed, and I would certainly hate to see something go wrong with it. So, it was just one of those kind of, I always have those kind of thoughts too. I always think about defending myself and my situations as I go forward with things. So I was just curious if you guys had, through that.
It's a good thought. It really is. But again, nothing we're going to be doing is going to be a new technology. We might have slightly newer or evolved mechanisms for accomplishing things. But solar has been around for a long time. Wind power has been around for a long time. Drip feeding roots has been around for a long time. Growing and canning your own food, but even building earthship type structures. This has been something you can go online and find hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of pictures of structures people have built. So we're not going to be doing something that's going to bring Johnny Law or the feds down. This is not going to be another Bundy Ranch where, hey, there's turtles on your land, so you guys have to shut down and move off. I don't care if you own the land or not. Okay, all of this has been cleared through. We have no concepts that we're going to be putting forth that are not tried and true at this point, and we're going to facilitate each and every one of them within the mechanism of that the law allows us to. So the only way anybody's going to be able to cause trouble is if they come in and try and do it on a personal level, because legally and strategically we have jumped over every single hurdle, and I refuse to allow the Liberty Beacon Project to be a part of this until we knew that every one of these hurdles had been cleared. And I have seen the proof. I've seen the light.
Well, I tell you, I'm extremely impressed, and I really am anxious to see how it develops. And I can't think of a single sort of red flag that I have in my mind about this, because it just seems to me as though it's been extremely well thought out. I mean, obviously, I don't know every single detail here, but the fact is that it all sounds very logical, very sensible, and very healthy as far as the way to develop something like this. And hopefully, it'll be an example, actually, for others to follow. And who knows? Maybe in a few years, we'll be talking about how this was the first of hundreds of these things. That would be a really revolutionary kind of goodness that could actually be part of the discussion very soon.
Do you know? I think they're called the NetBot. I'm not exactly sure I'm getting the name right, but it is a mechanism that takes all of the traffic and all of the chatter across the internet, and it predicts trends and movements for the near-term future. And what absolutely amazed me is one of my friends who does look into this stuff quite often has found a prediction on the site that facilitates these predictions that says that these type of communities are going to be starting and proliferating in a permanent type situation. In other words, these communities are going to start up and they're going to stay, and they're going to be permanent fixtures. So when I heard that, it was like, because if you have enough information making predictions, I'm a computer systems engineer. If you have enough information, you can predict trends very, very accurately. Mm-hmm. And it seems that this is exactly the type of thing that people are willing to hang some faith on nowadays. But when you do something like this, you have to ensure certain things. You have to ensure that, first off, you're serious. Second off, that you have the means. And third off, you're not ripping anybody off. And as you can see by the conversation we've had today, we have worked very, very hard to make sure that each and every one of these three aspects is met in a very large and satisfactory fashion. If I came on your show and said, yep, you want to help us out? Get us some donations. Ask people to donate money to this project. I can tell you that almost immediately, anybody who might have considered this would be turned off, and they'd never listen to another thing about this project again. Because they're all aware of the exacerbated situation of fraud in people asking for money online. But if we can assure them beyond a shadow of a doubt that whatever they donate can only be utilized to build, construct, and maintain this community, then they are assured beyond a shadow of a doubt of their contribution to the facilitation of this project. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. And I wish more people who were trying to do anything, any project like this, would adopt that, because it would bring a lot of faith and a lot more willingness to donate to projects such as this, or any type of a project where you're building something or you're facilitating something. If you didn't ask for money, if you asked for donations to a local vendor where you would have to buy the things you need to accomplish what you're saying you're going to accomplish. So you're locked into doing it in an above-board fashion. That lends confidence. That's going to bring more people on board saying, well, hell yeah, I'd love to be a part of this. I'd love to have my name on that website as somebody who helped build that community. Let me see. Where's the list of vendors? All right, I'm going to call a hardware store up and I'm going to tell them I'm going to pitch in $100 for hand tools for the Liberty Beacon, Colorado project. That's what it's going to facilitate.
No, that's definitely a great aspect of this. I mean, but I'm just, also thinking of the future and how it's going to evolve. And quite honestly, I hope that, that not only will I be able to contribute to it along the way, but I hope to actually visit this place and get my hands into it personally, because, it is the kind of thing that I think needs to be done. And,
Chuck, you come down, we'll put you to work, I promise.
You'll find something for me to do, huh?
Absolutely.
Regardless of my level of knowledge on the subject, you'll find a way to put me to use, right?
You want to hear something really funny? I'm going to explain something to you. I told you what I did. I was a computer systems engineer. I was also an acoustic systems engineer. I worked for the DoD. I've told you this before. I was actually an employee of Raytheon Service Company working DoD contracts in the military industrial complex for years. So my entire background is technical. When I go to this project, and I will be there the 12th or the 13th of June for the first time, and I step out, of course, I'm going to be one of the facilitators of the project because of the Liberty Beacon project is going to have such a big input into this project. But I'm going to get up every day, especially the first day, with total ignorance. I've never planted a garden. I've never made an adobe brick. I have got the first clue on how to can anything. I don't know anything about hemp except what it can do. I'm going down there as a total novice. So my job every day is going to be to get up, go to one of these experts and say, what's my task for today and how would you like me to accomplish it? And work my butt off for 10 to 14 hours a day, sweating in that hot sun, accomplishing what it's going to take to build. I'm not going to be sitting behind a desk. I'm not going to be running an internet project. I have a staff with the Liberty Beacon project that's well capable of doing that, and we're putting a lot more structure into place because I work 18 hours a day on this project, so it's going to take several people to fill my slot when I'm gone. So I'm going to be the Forrest Gump of the project. I know nothing. But I'm going to work my butt off, and I'm going to learn every single day.
Well, I definitely don't feel so bad because as I think about going down and doing that, I'm glad that I won't be the only one kind of sitting there going, okay, look, I don't know anything about this, guys.
If you come down a month after it starts, I'll probably be holding the whip. You're probably going out into the fields with me, and I'll say, look, I've been doing this for a month. This is how we're going to do it, Charles.
Well, that'll be the test of it, like I said, because, when you're educating people, of course, and teaching them practical things, it's going to be a great sort of on-site test right then and there. Because as you learn and as you develop these things, it's going to evolve like in a natural sort of way. And what's funny to me is that this really does harken back to the way things used to be done. So far as, you came into learning a trade. You didn't necessarily go to any school or anything. You went to the place where that trade was in use, and you learned how to do certain things, and that applied to everything. I mean, whether you were, a mechanic, a long time ago, or you were, going to be a farmer, or you were going to, work in construction or anything else, you basically did an apprenticeship. So this seems to me like sort of a mass movement of apprenticeships, to independent living is the way I would put it.
Well, I am a big opponent of Agenda 21 and sustainability, but I am not an opponent of sustainability. And again, like I said, they've turned that into a very bad word. You say sustainability now, and a lot of people draw back in horror because they immediately associate that with Agenda 21. No, sustainability, if you look it up in the dictionary, has a very, very purposeful definition, okay? We are building a community that will be able to sustain itself going forward with very little to no outside influence. Well, of course, there's no such thing as no outside influence. We're going to have to sell our crop. Okay? We're going to have to. They're going to have to be things we're going to need with our cash that we can't produce for ourselves. All right? Unless we had a steel factory and unless we had an electronics factory, so the sustainability is a very, very integral component in this. What I need to get people over is the fact that word, because it's used so heavily in conjunction with Agenda 21, is a bad word. It's not. It's Agenda 21 that's a bad word, or a bad several words. We're going to do this within the confines and the laws of the United States of America, not the UN, not Agenda 21. We're going to do it within the freedoms allotted to us and within the laws set down by our governing factor, our Constitution. What do we have the right to do? So sustainability is the first hurdle we have to get over. When we tell people we're building a sustainable community, the first thing we're going to have is their eyes opening up the size of saucer plates going, oh, you're part of Agenda 21. Hell no!
No, and that's the thing. I mean, sustenance and sustainability, they're not bad words. They're not ugly words. They're actually very practical, very sensible words. And
concepts, yes.
Concepts, right. And the thing is that, this is, again, people talk about having to go back to the way things were because they were a whole lot more sensible back then. Sustainability was something that was a whole lot more common than it is now.
Oh, God, yes.
And, in every single way. Plus, interacting with the local community is something that I've stressed several times on my show, that this is a much healthier sort of way to perpetuate your own local community. Like, if you are contributing to the sustainability of your neighbors and you are contributing to the sustainability of the entire area in which you live, whether it be through economic factors or through environmental factors or whatever, you are essentially making a healthier living environment where everyone is sort of interdependent on each other in a way locally, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So if you're going to do business, again, it is any kind of business, and that does mean not just dealing with money and banks and things, but I mean the fact of say trading and exchanging skills and things like this. It is much healthier to do it on a local level because the strength of your surroundings will
your
also
community strengthens.
Yeah, it strengthens your community and it strengthens yourself.
So, I would tell you that one of the two ladies that I mentioned who originally came up with the land and the basics for the project has already decided that we are going to grow probably 200% of what we need as far as food goes for the community. And the reason she wishes to do this is because what she wishes to do is can and preserve this food once it's harvested, and then she wishes to find the individuals within the local communities who cannot provide for themselves, and she wants to set up a charitable situation whereby we can donate food and other things to help support those in the community that are having issues or troubles supporting themselves. This has already been worked into the project. And again, when you're talking about building a community, it's not just about everybody living and working within that community. It's about people sharing knowledge. It's about people sharing. If I have a lot of something and somebody else has very little of it, and I can see that they have a need for it, this is what building a community is. It's about helping each other to move forward in a viable fashion. So building a community doesn't just mean a bunch of people living in one area and all having different interests. Building a community means everybody working in a direction with a common interest. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to think the same way. But if you are giving into the community in an unselfish fashion, it's probably a pretty good guess that somebody in that community is going to want to make sure that you're recognized for it and give something back to you in an unselfish fashion. This is building a community.
Yeah, and I mean, even recently I was speaking with someone off the air about the Great Depression and how there was no money during that time. Oh, I know we're about to revisit that, but in some ways we already have. But the truth is, they were talking to me about how they had tenant farmers and they were farmers, and what used to happen between just the farmers in a particular area, where, say, if your cow stopped giving milk, your neighbor would probably come over and bring you some extra milk. And when it was time that your cow was producing milk and theirs wasn't, you would come by and bring them a pail the same way. And it wasn't about the money or the exchange of goods, like, let's say, for value. It was merely about individuals that happen to be close to one another taking care of each other. And this is the way that families became associated, with one another, not by the means of money or prestige or anything like this, but simply by the sort of acts of human kindness and decency, where if you're able to produce more than you require, and even without, and like I said, these were very poor people exchanging this stuff, but the thing was, it wasn't like something that was kept track of for the purposes of credit or anything like that. It was just merely something that was done. And in that way, because you were part of a community, you had a sort of a backup to your own situation. So even if, say one farmer's crops had been wiped out by the weather or something like this, there would be another one that would sort of help pick up the slack this year for that farmer. But at the same time, you would be expected to do the same thing. And this wasn't even something that was really part of the thinking, as far as, for the past few generations, most people have become so self-involved and so locked into these odd sort of paradigms.
What's in it for me?
What's in it for me? What do I get out of it? And all of that, not understanding that building the strength of your neighbors sometimes is one of the greatest ways to build your own strength.
Well, what you've just described across this entire country in the days of what we quote unquote call the pioneers, what you've just described is the actual facilitation or the building of communities. This is how communities came about. When you had several farmers or several whatever living within a region that deemed it necessary to support each other for the betterment and the survival of everybody within that area, then you ended up with a community. So what you've just described is the basis or the superstructure of a community.
Right, but doesn't it sound kind of rare in today's world, sort of?
It's way too rare.
Yeah.
Which is another part of the mechanism that was that I used to justify this to the project. Because yes, I'm the founder of this project, but there's a lot of people in this project, and if I'm going to come up with an idea that's going to affect the entire project, then this is something I need to sell to the entire project. And a lot of what we've discussed here today was the mechanism I used to sell this to the Liberty Beacon project. And this entire project is so on board with this, it's insane. This is going to be our pet. This is going to be our shining star. This is going to be our crown jewel. This is the Liberty Beacon not only talking the talk, but walking the walk.
Well, I got to say, that I really thank you for coming on with me tonight, and this has just been really enlightening, and I really feel hopeful, just really hopeful about this project. And please, by all means, I want to keep up on it. And, you know, do you have the web address, which is going to have the updates on it yet, or?
That will be up Monday. I will make sure you have it. As a matter of fact, if you wish, I can come on next Tuesday and give a quick update and give the information out for anybody that needs it, or I can have anybody else that you bring in from the Liberty Beacon Project take that information to your show next week. And why is it that I always come in with a limit of an hour, but I always overtalk that hour? You're here I am. It's 10 after. I need to be doing something else, but I'm so comfortable discussing things with you that I didn't even realize what the time was.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Don't apologize, my friend.
We ran over there, but that happens with me a lot. I don't know why.
But it's a good thing. If you're one who can facilitate an intelligent and a comfortable conversation or discussion, because I hate interviews. I refuse to do interviews. Mm-hmm. But if you're one that can facilitate a decent discussion or an interesting conversation, then you're somebody I wish to talk to.
Well, you're definitely somebody I enjoy talking to as well. And it just, it seems to me that this happens to me a lot, though, where people intend to come on for a certain amount of time and they always overstep their time.
Well, I've enjoyed the hell out of it, and I appreciate you inviting me on. And like I said, maybe we can arrange for maybe a 10 or a 15-minute update, because the project is going to be launched. The website, which is basically going to launch the project, will be up and public next Monday, which is the 4th of May. And that will be one day before your show. So it would be a great time to give some information as to where people can go, and maybe reiterate a little bit of the information, such as the donation mechanism, again next week. But that's totally up to you, my friend.
Oh, no, absolutely. I would love to have you on again next week, and we can at least get an update on the website and direct people to it and let them know if any other developments have come up since tonight. So, and anytime, Roger, I would love to have you on. You know, if you ever have any sort of thing that you want to, you know, discuss, I'm always happy to have a discussion with you as well.
Don't say that, Chuck, because I talk for a living, okay? And there's a lot of things that piss me off. So, you'd never have another guest between now and the end of eternity. So I will come on when I'm invited. But don't give me an open door, because you're going to have a hell of a time closing it.
Well, look, I'll leave you there. It's okay though. It's okay, because I'll tell you, I get pissed off at a lot of the same things you do. So it's all right.
We've had some discussions. We have, yes.
So, but at the very least, next Tuesday, yes, please come on again, and we'll discuss this a little more, and let people know what's happened and about the website and everything as it's developing. Okay.
It sounds like a plan. And again, please let me tell you my great appreciation for giving me the ability to get the word out, and for conducting such a pleasant conversation.
Well, you're half of that, so it's half of your half of your doing as well, Roger. So, but anyway, all right. You have a good night now.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So, we discussed that whole situation, and I'm really glad to be involved in that. We're gonna let you know how it develops as it develops, and hopefully, everybody who's listening right now, I let out a couple of invites earlier if anybody wanted to come on and discuss in the second hour this whole thing that was traveling across the mainstream, and as you know, the LA Clippers owner has now been banned for life from the NBA, based on this conversation, which I posted some of this stuff up on my Facebook page. And, I know that this is a real serious turn and topic for me, but, you know, it's one of those things that I find it so aggravating on so many different levels. And, it's really, you know, I really hope that there's going to be some guys that are going to join me on this one. I put out a lot of invites. If you want to join me, you can as well. Anybody listening, 718-717-8296, I believe is the number. And, again, if you want to join me, that's fine. Anybody who's on my Skype list who feels like joining in is fine with me as well. But here's the thing. This whole situation starts when this guy who's, clearly sort of an elitist sort of guy, owns a basketball team, is participating in some sort of discussion with his girlfriend, it seems, and she secretly tapes him, making these remarks which are either mildly racist or partially racist or completely racist, I guess, depending on your point of view. And then the next thing you know is that within 3 days, we have the NBA, commissioner turning around and banning this guy for life from participating in this franchise which he owns. Now, about franchise ownership, it is interesting to note that even as a franchise owner, no matter how rich you're getting or whatever else, you're part of a larger sort of company. And that larger sort of company has all sorts of clauses to govern your behavior, to govern your speech, to govern your public displays of this and that and the third thing. And I grant people that there is some serious concern when there is, a guy who's owning an NBA team making racial remarks about blacks essentially. But, the disturbing aspect to me about this is this secret taping kind of stuff that goes on. And, this disgusting trend which has, risen up, and especially not necessarily only in the past few years, but I mean, at the time of the proliferation of and there I am tripping over my own tongue again, as I always tell you guys I do. But, the proliferation of the sort of, big brother upon itself, the big brother upon itself, recording itself, a society which records itself, I mean to say, and the secret sort of recording of people's actions, of people's private conversations and things like this, then being released to the media, and then causing scandals and all this other sort of nonsense. While we're in a state of world events where we're concerned with the situation in the former Soviet Union, in the Ukraine, and we're watching that entire chess game dance. It is rather noteworthy that the mainstream is again becoming consumed with some more silliness, in my opinion, because after all, this was all, began because the fact that this woman who was having a private conversation with him, which by the way seems really suspect to me when I listen to the tape, to begin with, is recording and then disseminating what should be privately held remarks. Now, I don't know how anybody else feels about the punishment of this guy and having his business taken away from him, but let's just forget the particulars of the NBA, and let's forget the particulars of of race and all this sort of thing. I mean, is it permissible in our society, and I don't mean from a legal standpoint, but I mean just from a sort of social standpoint, is it permissible to remove somebody from ownership or from leadership in a company, corporation, franchise, anything, because of what is seen as harmful language? Is that, I mean, I grant that someone should have some responsibility when it comes to their language and the way that they want to deal with things when they're responsible for a public sort of shared product where you have these sort of sociological concerns involved in a business. But again, you could sort of expand that outward to think about the problems with any business. And okay, I guess the phones aren't forwarded to me. That's why I'm not getting any calls. But the thing is, I did also ask anybody who wanted to drop in on me on Skype. If you want to, go right ahead. So that's still open. You know what? If you don't have my Skype contact, I'll tell you what, you can do that right now. Charles.Ochelli, if you like. Ochelli. That's how I spell it. That is how it is spelled. But anyway, if you guys want to join in with me, you can even just send me a contact request and I'll drop you in right now, regardless of who you are. So, back to what I was saying, when I examine this whole thing, it does come down to a sort of a revolting element that has become really prolific in our society, where people are taking private moments and making them public. And if you begin to address the silliness of of celebrity and the silliness of the public persona of individuals who are supposed to be in ostensibly responsible positions in public life, and then you begin to punish people for unpopular, distasteful, or otherwise ugly language, where does this all lead? And I say again that on a smaller scale, look, if somebody were to take some comments that I made that were not meant for the air and bring them to you guys at UCY and say, look, this is the stuff that Chuck says, which is very distasteful and very ridiculous and very ugly from a politically correct sort of standpoint, and politically correct. I know that most of the listeners to this network don't have a real dog in that fight, because we don't necessarily, or at least in my opinion, it seems as though nobody who listens to this network has a particular love for politically correct things. But the thing is that when I say politically correct, I don't necessarily mean what is acceptable currently, in the mainstream, obviously. But I mean, if I were to say things that were completely revolting to you, as a listener, and completely revolting to the overall sort of unspoken agenda among people listening to this network, and they were not meant for the air. They were made privately. They were said to a friend, recorded without my knowledge, and then disseminated to you guys. Would it then be right for those unintended comments to be used against me, so that trouble could be made, and somebody could go to Jules and say, listen to the terrible things that Chuck says off the air, and you need to kick him off? I mean, would that be necessary? Would that be a good thing to do? Regardless of what it was. And I mean, you can use your own imagination to develop any of the sort of scary things that I could possibly say, and believe me, I probably said them at some point. I have no sort of illusions about who it is I have been and who it is I have become in recent years. And the possibility for me saying anything could probably be found, depending on when it was you were running a tape recorder, and depending on whose company I was in and who I was trusting to hear some of my most inner thoughts or excited utterances, depending on the situation. And if you don't believe that there's some sort of value in having this discussion, again, I'm sorry, but to me it just seems as though someone who is making remarks which are not meant for public consumption is then to be publicly persecuted. I really just can't quite make peace with that in my mind. So again, is it a right thing to punish people for these things? I don't believe so. I think that no matter what sort of speech one participates in, it is permissible, so long as you're not supporting the injury of others and the unlawful sort of inciting insurrection or unlawful things directly. I think outside of doing that, I can't see how a great deal of harm is done by anybody's speech for any reason. Well, anyway, it does appear as though nobody is going to join me on the show tonight. But tell you what I am going to do is move around a little bit and let Kim join me on this for a little while, if she's up for it. And by the way, anybody who's listening to this further downstream, you need to come to the main website, which is ucy.tv, and for me it's /TOE, and that'll take you directly to the Ochelli Effect website, or the Ochelli Effect page on the ucy.tv website. I really love the name of the network, by the way, because, it's a sentence in and of itself. Now you can see why. So I like that sort of revelation-esque way of looking at things psychologically. So I definitely love the letters of the network themselves. And and also later on I'll be doing part of the show, I guess, with Hammy for an hour there, because he's a little out of position or something. And hope you guys will join me for that later on as well. Obviously, I do talk about some of the other shows on my show as well that are on this network. Don't know what's going on with the Jack Blood show, and now I'm hearing a little thunder in the background, it seems. Mm-hmm. So if for some reason I drop out and disappear for a moment, it might be an electrical interruption, and I apologize for that in advance. So anyway, Kim, you feeling about ready to talk to me for a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. Since nobody else will join me.
You can't hear.
Well, yeah, but you know what? Right now there's nothing to hear because there's nobody else on the conversation.
Oh.
So it's just you and me talking to the audience.
Okay.
So if you could just get a little closer to the mic, because I've only got the one mic set up right now. And because I was intending on doing this for a little bit longer, and I actually had somebody else that was going to come on briefly to talk to me about this, but I see that they're not even online. And, you know, it is possible, being that they are in the particular area of the country where they are, they may not have power at this moment because of some of the storms and things that have gone through. So I'm not going to call anybody out and talk about who disappointed me as far as showing up in the second hour. But I did have a good talk with Roger Landry, though, for a bit. And we were talking about the Earthship project in Colorado and the sustainability of it. We spent a lot of time talking about how the hemp is going to be the sort of cash crop which will help to make the community sustainable, and probably the ability to join such a community will happen in about 2 or 3 years if you're somebody with family and you want to expand and join into that community. But you wanted to talk about this whole thing with the NBA guy here, and his lifetime ban now for his racial comments.
Right. Well, I'm sure my opinion won't be popular, but I don't agree with it. It was a private conversation that was in his home or wherever it may have been, and it was taped without his knowledge, and now it's being used against him. So, one, what happened to the freedom of speech? Where did that go? You are entitled to your opinion, whether it's morally correct or not. It's your opinion. And I'm glad to see he didn't back down from his opinion. When questioned, he said it was me, and he didn't show remorse. That's his opinion. He is entitled to it, and that's that.
Well, you know, when we talk about the freedom of speech, most times people sort of convolute the idea of society's pressures versus the legal aspect of it and what can legally be done to somebody who makes unpopular or ugly speech in public. And, there's a couple of problems with this right here. And one of them is that, the NBA is a private sort of conglomerate of corporations where, each team is a franchise. So, it's sort of hard to explain that business structure. But, I mean, they can do what they want, among their own business.
But that's irrelevant because it was a private conversation. He did not have that conversation at the stadium or arena that they had the basketball games in. It was a private conversation. So that's like you and I having a conversation about something that we disagree on, and you secretly taping me or vice versa and using it against the other person. Private organization or not, if it not had been recorded, it would not be an issue right now.
Well, yeah, and I mean, but we're living in sort of a voyeuristic age where people are being recorded constantly. I mean, as we note all the time, the NSA is listening to us. Even a half-assed hacker can get themselves a piece of programming to probably listen to every single utterance in your house, or in your business or whatever else. You're being monitored everywhere you go. I mean, is it not more like, What do you think is worse, really? The idea that that we're constantly under some sort of surveillance that can later be used against us, or do you think that that it's worse that that people utilize that's nothing. People utilize that in ugly ways publicly to sort of shame people into taking actions against others. I mean,
It's intertwined.
Well, yeah, it's an intertwined
Kind of goes
thing.
hand in hand.
All right. Well, what do you think about the actual statement itself? Have you actually heard the whole tape?
Yes, actually I did, just a little while ago. And it's basically, it's not libelous. He's not calling out one particular player or a couple of different players by name. So it's a matter of his opinion. And I don't think that people should be scared to state their opinion if it's not libelous for fear of repercussion.
Well, see,
I don't.
I got you, and I'm of a couple of different minds on this because, I almost come to expect that every single thing I say nowadays is being recorded. And I wonder if it's just, do you think, I mean, it's kind of a dicey thing because, look, I mean, where does privacy exist anymore?
It doesn't, and that's the problem. Everybody's either offended or gets upset over something. If you're offended by it, move on. Move on. I'm sure there's plenty of things that I've said or done that people don't like, but you know what? I'm not searching for people's approval. It's my particular opinion on a subject, and if you ask me my opinion, which, I mean, I know he wasn't asked, it was a private conversation, but if my opinion is asked about something and you don't like it, well, you shouldn't have asked.
Well, I understand that, but what about the concept of public responsibility? Let's just say because he's in such a public industry.
But it was a private that's the argument. It was a private conversation. It was not something that he stood up at a microphone and made this general announcement of don't take pictures with the players. Don't throw it around in my face. I don't want to hear it from other people's mouths. It was a private conversation. That word is being forgotten. Private. It was private. And it's taken and thrown on. It got as much coverage as the airplane did for a little while. All day long, that's all you heard about.
Oh yeah, and and I also wonder, if people aren't, like, 'cause Hank Aaron a couple of weeks back was making a statement about Atlanta and about racism and
right. If you're against Obama, you're part of the KKK. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. But that's his opinion. That's his opinion.
Well, right, but I mean, where I was taking this was, look, if you were to actually have this sort of technological state that we have now, among people that own baseball teams or football teams or whatever, 20, 30, 40 years ago, I mean, can you imagine the overwhelming avalanche of probably racial statements that were being made ever since Jackie Robinson and probably before Jackie Robinson joined the major leagues? I mean, it's astounding to me to think about, how the technology has altered. Because, I mean, look, if there wasn't all of this sort of, recording apparatus that you carried around in your phone and these abilities to make videos on the spot and the proliferation of recording equipment essentially in the hands of the public, do you think that this kind of stuff would even occur?
No. And it wouldn't be national television news either, for crying out loud.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they focus on all kinds of nonsense in the mainstream that, just seems to be pointless chatter in order to fill their 24-hour slots.
Well, whether it's mainstream or not, you had the same thing with Cliven Bundy with his comment that got twisted around and turned out that it really isn't exactly what he said.
Yeah, that's noteworthy as well.
So either just get over what people say, move on, or just stay in your house in your own little hole and don't ever come out, because either If something is offensive to somebody, so we have to make a big giant stink about it. If you don't like it, turn it off. Don't listen to it. Walk away. Period. I mean, Christmas trees out in the public. Oh, that's offensive to me, so you can't have it. Well, you know what? Your menorah is offensive to me, so take it down. Who am I to say? Nobody. I don't particularly care for it. Okay, so I move on. Big deal. Everything gets blown out of proportion because somebody's offended. Yeah. Everybody gets their panties in a wrinkle because they're offended. They're offended about it. Please.
Well, yeah, I hear that, and I'll tell you something else I found sort of amazing is the sort of celebrations, because I think you were watching some of it with me, but the celebrations of people like, oh, good, I'm glad he was punished now, and I hope that they completely remove him from being able to even make any money off of this team he supposedly owns.
Well, personally, a $2.5 million fine, that's a joke. You might as well take 2 pennies out of our wallet. That's a joke. So where's his punishment, really? His ex-wife is going to buy the team, so it's still going to remain in the family somehow.
Well, I don't know if she's going to be allowed to buy the team. I think that the concept was brought up as a possibility because she's still making money, because California, I guess, is a community property state. So she's still making money off of his ownership of that particular franchise. But I mean, the fact that he's going to be forced to sell, shamed into backing out of, whatever he succeeded at in business, seems to be a bit of a conundrum that just occurs, based on this sort of sensitivity in the society. But the weird thing to me, again, was like the celebration as if this was some sort of victory, for equality. Where is the victory for equality in this? Where is any sort of victory in this actually? Between the fact that, first of all, this guy's privacy was violated by somebody, and brought these things out. Plus, you know what else? There is no way for this guy to defend himself right now that he's going to win. I mean, look, he can't possibly, turn around and defend himself really publicly at this point, because if he does, it's going to be like, oh, okay, so now you're defending your racist attitude. And if he doesn't defend it and he backs down from it, well, now it's just going to be a PR move to try and get himself out of hot water. And that'll be something else he doesn't mean. Even if he apologizes for it or whatever else, it's not going to do him any good at this point. He's just going to be published, publicly, humiliated and publicly, shamed into giving up something that he, one way or another, acquired or earned, as a businessman. And I sort of feel like this is a story that could expand outward. And, what's to stop people from taking away, say, if you have a corner store because you made, publicly, it was let out that you made, racial argument or racial, slurs against the people that you probably serve or do business with on a daily basis. I mean, could you be forced to sell your corner store or your house?
No, probably not, because you're not big enough to make an example out of. I mean, this has nothing to do with the racial thing, but look at Martha Stewart with her insider trading. She served prison time. She was made an example of simply by whom she is. That's the only reason. Look at all the other people who have done it. She was made an example of, and I think that's what they're doing to him. And I'm glad he didn't backpedal on his remarks. I think that would have been worse, trying to back out of something that he said. Now, it's a fact of life. People are racist. What are you going to do about it? Fine every single person that has a racist remark? Take away their business because they don't like the Jewish people, or they don't like the Arabs, or they don't like whites, or they don't like blacks? We've come to a state where you can't even open your mouth because you might offend somebody.
You see, but I know this has kind of happened on a local level before, where somebody has been forced out of a local business because they made disparaging remarks about people in the community. This kind of thing.
Is it an actual person, though? Was it a libel remark, or was it just a basic racist comment?
No, like racist remarks being captured, on a video, like say, I wish I could recall the exact names here involved, but I mean, this is before the age of the internet when these things, spread very much virally. But, there was a point at which it was either northern New Jersey or New York City where, somebody was pretty much forced out of their business after, there were a lot of pickets held outside of their store because the local news had gotten a hold of what was supposed to be a private home video, and somebody within the family was pretty vindictive about it and decided to sort of, put it out there to make their uncle or whatever look bad. And the next thing you knew is that there were all these sort of, Action Alliance or Rainbow Coalition pickets and things outside of their store because of these racial remarks, and they were trying to shut down their business. And they were pretty much forced out of business on a local level. So this did happen even before the days of the internet, but it did happen post the proliferation of recording equipment. I observed years ago watching certain documentaries about how this was going to evolve, and they made some pretty interesting statements about the sort of, the fear of Big Brother and how Big Brother would become more a coalition of citizens that don't necessarily mean to coalesce. All of us watching each other would really become the Big Brother concept instead of the one great agency that was feared to be coming out of the government or out of some other construct which was acceptable as a power source at the time. But the reality was that both have happened here, where we're watching each other. The government is watching us. The other entities are watching us. The media assets are watching us all. And, every single place that we go, we no longer have any sort of expectation of privacy whatsoever.
Well, you and I live under the belief system of, live and let live and peaceful type attitudes, but that's not everybody.
Right. Well, peaceful coexistence without necessarily imposing your own judgments upon others is kind of how we conduct ourselves on a daily basis. Yeah.
But everybody is not like that. So now everybody has to watch what they say because it might be offensive to somebody else. I mean, that's almost, I don't have words to describe it. It's not right.
Yeah, we do. There's a necessity now for self-editing, verbally, sort of restricting your own speech and censoring oneself is becoming a necessary sort of, tool in order to coexist in the society because, some of the things that we might utter privately are no longer private. So, I mean, it kind of lends itself to both of these issues in my mind.
Well, it does. And like I said, I'm glad he didn't backpedal on what he said. I think it would have made it a lot worse.
Yeah.
This just doesn't go here. There was also something I read about where a family lost their child in a terrible car accident, and they put up a small memorial on the spot where the child died in the accident. And apparently it was offensive to a group of people who didn't believe in God. And they wanted all the crosses down and all the memorials taken away because they found it offensive. And they won. They took it to the town court, the local court system, and they won. Why is that such a big deal to you that you had to go to court and have these people who are already grieving? That's what they did to memorialize their child and to go and have a place to cry, reflect, whatever it is they were doing. Who is this group of people to say they can't do that? If it's so offensive, drive past it.
Well, yeah.
You're going to force it, but then the people put it up again afterward anyway, and it went back to court, and I believe it's still going in through court now. But who is this group of people to say you can't put that there because it's offensive to me. You know what? Tough shit.
Well, do you know what state that was in?
No, I don't recall what state it was in. I read it like 2 months ago. And I was just horrified to think that something as simple... Ooh, that's a weather warning on our phone.
Yeah, that's because of the thunder,
Tornado
lightning,
warning.
and tornadoes.
Oh, we are in a tornado warning until 8:30.
Yep.
Nice.
Here they come again.
Take shelter immediately. Well, you know what? Uh-oh. Anyway, I found it to be... That just was very disturbing to me. That you got to watch everything you do, everything you say, because, oh no, you might offend this group of people, or you might offend this one, and they're going to take you to court.
And we used to live in a state where there were these constant memorials being erected for, people being killed by drunk drivers, people having been killed in other sorts of automobile accidents, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean...
some of it's a little morbid when you got pictures, but you know what?
Well, the whole state was practically littered with these things.
But who the hell am I to say you can't do that?
But, I mean, all over New Jersey, the state was practically littered with them.
Well, because you have a bunch of morons driving, number one. That's why. But
I think that's everywhere.
Number two, that's the family's way of grieving or whatever it is that they're doing that for. They have their reason. And they should be allowed to have, it's not hurting anybody.
No, I absolutely don't have a problem with, and again, I'm not a Christian, but I don't care if there are crosses erected, to memorialize a human being, whatever it is they put there. I mean, when small children were killed again in the state of New Jersey in different ways, we used to see teddy bears, being left on the site and stuff like that, along with flowers. And I mean, there are some people that object to the idea of stuffed bears, for God's sake. Toy clowns terrify people. They left toys there. They left all kinds of things there.
I just think there's more important things to be focused on than somebody else's words, unless they're liable and their actions directed to you, or somebody else's way of grieving. There are more important things to focus your time and your energy on. And I feel sorry for these people that get off on doing that. I really do. Because you're living a sad life if that's what you're doing, is running around and telling people that they can't do this or they shouldn't say that. If you're that offended by it, then stay in your damn house. Period. Turn off the TV, turn off the radio, and just stay in your house and become a little hermit. And don't get involved with people, because somewhere down the line somebody's going to offend you, and either you got to learn how to deal with it, or you're going to continue to pull this kind of crap.
Well, I think it really just harkens back to the idea of not internalizing, because the weird thing, again, like I said, was watching, people celebrate as if there was a victory to be had by this guy's removal and punishment and having his business taken away, but I think there's something to be said for not internalizing and not deciding that you are part of an offended group, that you are part of a victim class. I think that that's a necessary thing that needs to be examined. And, it really does make me start to think, what is it that you don't have enough to do? I mean, if you're more engaged in the day-to-day survival of yourself and your family, if you're more engaged in protecting and prolonging your family's well-being in any way, shape, or form, doesn't it seem to be just a whole lot more valuable a use of your time to invest it in that, as opposed to getting involved in all these sort of non-issues and ridiculousness involved in, like I said before, taking somebody's private moments, which, I don't even know what the meaning of the word private is anymore. But I mean, taking somebody's private moments and exploiting them, for the purposes of shaming them and punishing them, whether it be financially, socially, or otherwise. It just seems to me to be a complete waste of time. But At the same time, I think it is a cautionary tale because, myself and some people that I believe share some of the same views that I have, we have been punished in some ways, for our opinions. And, in some ways we have to learn that those punishments are a good thing because, because your belief system has been revealed to someone else and it has moved them, whether it be positively or negatively. There's something positive to always be taken from moving someone in any direction, with your words, with your opinions, with your desired, presentations. And I'm a little distracted because of the thunder and
I just got to go move the plant off the hook.
Okay, that's fine.
But because the wind they're saying is like 60 miles per hour, that plant's going to go flying through the wind.
Yeah, we're getting sudden pickups of serious wind and tornadoes here. I think they're tornado. We're under a tornado warning, and the weather is getting fairly severe here in North Carolina. So, hopefully it'll pass us by without doing any real damage. A few days ago, we were dealing with the tornadoes that were a few miles from here, and they missed where we are. But it's a consideration. And I don't know if you heard that, but the house is getting rattled a little. So I don't know exactly what all that means. Little flicker of the electricity. Okay, I'm still on. Anyway, we are still on.
I don't know. My opinions are probably not very popular, but they're my opinions.
No, it's fine.
And that's...
I never tell you not to have your opinions about things. That's for sure.
We've
only got about, about 8 minutes left to the show now. And, again, it was really great talking to Roger Landry tonight and going again with the Liberty Beacon. I hope you guys are enjoying those programs. I haven't really gotten a lot of feedback on them yet, but hopefully they've been informative. We definitely have a lot of other stuff coming up in the pipeline, so to speak. And Kim, you had some stuff about vaccines. Are you ready to say anything about that tonight, just as we're getting ready to close out?
Well, I signed up to be a member of North Carolina's advocacy team for not vaccinating, going to our senators and our congressmen whenever a new bill is trying to be passed to either fight it or support it, depending on what it is. So there's like a bunch of us. I think there's about 5 of us in North Carolina. And I want to get more information about it so the next time we have a conversation, I can actually read off what's in some of these vaccines that really are just poison. But I thought it was something important, being that we're going to be older parents now, and I want to do things differently with this baby than I did my older children. And I think it's a worthy cause to get involved with.
Right. So at some point, I'll definitely do a show probably exclusively devoted to vaccines. Simply because it's a central issue to my life right now, and it's one of those things that we're trying to consider how to sort of sidestep the negative stuff that we don't want injected into our newborn's body. And I fully recognize that I probably made some mistakes in the past by allowing my first 2 kids to be vaccinated as they were. We're also looking into some of the homeschooling stuff, which, I'm hoping to learn more about. This is new territory for me. I can see that it is definitely of great value to examine and explore. It may or may not be the right choice for me, but I think that based on the fact that I sort of have these unconventional political views and and that I don't want to have, intrusive chemicals or intrusive values sort of inflicted upon our son as he comes into this world at this time. I think it is something that I'm going to have to examine further.
There's a lot to learn.
There is a lot to learn, and I don't claim to be an expert on this by any means. I don't claim to be an expert on much, really, but this is one of those things that I think I have to develop a fair base of knowledge on, because the very little that I have learned about the vaccines and about the contents of them frightens the hell out of me. And anything that comes from the big pharmaceutical companies is suspect at best. I don't know if I entirely subscribe to the concept of, the current practice of medicine being without any sort of validity. But I do know that there is just a lot of toxic and terrible aspects to what is being introduced and what is being done to all of us, especially children, because they don't have the ability to educate themselves, the right to speak up or anything else. So on behalf of my son, before he even arrives in this world, I need to re-educate myself a bit more. I mean, I'm familiar with some of this stuff, like I said, but not enough to feel confident to make logical and informed decisions.
Well, some of the states, things that they're trying to pass will blow your mind. I mean, just from where we moved from, New Jersey wants to allow the schools to administer the HPV vaccination to 6th grade girls. No.
Well, right. I mean, and not only is the whole Gardasil and HPV issue just...
That should be our choice, though, not the state's choice. And that's part of what this group is that I joined, is every parent should be able to make their own decision. It should not be forced. It should not be regulated, basically, that your kid can't go to school unless they have these particular shots. Now, when my children were little, they had to have the pneumonia shot or the flu shot before they went into kindergarten. I've never taken the flu shot. I've gotten sick, but my body healed itself from the flu.
Yeah, well, I got to say that I haven't taken a flu shot in at least, I would say the last time I took one was when I traveled overseas, because I was kind of worried about being exposed to the flu in other countries.
Well, that's kind of different.
Yeah, I mean, so that was at least 20 years ago.
Right.
So, but the thing is, I haven't accepted one ever since. And quite honestly, I can only recall that maybe I got any sort of flu maybe twice in 20 years. And every year there's always a scare and the promotion of get your flu shots. And, you walk into a drugstore for some reason or other and they're offering them now and everything else. And,
well, if I'm not going to put it in my body, then why would I put it in my child's body? Right?
No, absolutely. And, I just got a message from a friend that said, I should look at the waiver for our state. And we are. And as a matter of fact,
there's religious and medical, waivers that you could do for North Carolina. There are other states too that also have, philosophical beliefs that I wish every state had, but they don't. So again, I have to do a lot more research on it with the emails that I'm getting from the team leader and stuff like that. But if I'm not going to put it in me, I'm not going to put it in my kid.
Oh, that's the end of us for tonight. Next time on Ochelli, see why that. At the age of 19 in 1962, she was
See, but I have the files. You know, I read the stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? The brain, you know, pistols and fondle slab of choice. I don't know when that was. Internet, professional records, and not just in tourist style. It doesn't matter where the information comes from as long as it's real. It doesn't. It's hard to get real information because seriously.